GOAT NFL team.
Whoever picks me.
GOAT athlete.
Shedeur Sanders.
GOAT musician.
Deion Sanders Jr.
GOAT actor.
Shedeur Sanders.
GOAT TV show.
Coach Prime.
Give us your best SI cover pose.
Yeah.
The Cleveland Browns cannot escape their own quarterback problem. Every single offseason, it is the same conversation, the same uncertainty, the same unanswered questions coming out of Berea. And now, just weeks before training camp opens on July 28th, the noise around Shedeur Sanders is only getting louder, and not in the way Browns fans were hoping. Reports are surfacing that Sanders recently met with veteran Deshaun Watson. On the surface, that sounds like two teammates building chemistry. But dig a little deeper and the picture gets more complicated. Because at the same time those meetings are happening, there are active calls being made about Sanders' availability. Trade calls. And that tells you everything you need to know about where this organization's head is at right now. ESPN Cleveland's Tony Rizzo said it plainly on a recent episode. He said there are ongoing conversations happening about the availability of Shedeur Sanders. He went further and stated that in his opinion, the Browns simply do not believe he is their guy. Now the organization has not confirmed any of this publicly. They are still pushing the quarterback competition narrative. But Rizzo did not stop there. He went on record saying he does not believe all four quarterbacks on the roster will be in camp when July 28th arrives. Nothing is imminent, he acknowledged, but the calls are being made, and he believes it would probably be in the best interest of both parties if Sanders moved on. That is a significant statement, and it raises a genuinely important question. Because if you look at what Sanders actually did during the OTAs and minicamps, none of this makes complete sense. Sanders completed 79 of his 113 passes. He threw 5 touchdowns against only 3 interceptions. Those are not the numbers of a quarterback who should be generating trade rumors. Compare that to Deshaun Watson, who went 90 for 133 with 13 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, but whose process looked anything but smooth according to people watching closely. And then look at Dillon Gabriel, the third-string option, who went 19 for 32 with 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Of those 3 quarterbacks, Sanders is clearly performing at the most efficient level relative to his volume. So why is he the one whose name keeps coming up in trade discussions? The Athletic's Zach Jackson watched Watson's OTA work carefully, and what he saw was not encouraging. Inconsistencies, inaccuracies, poor decision-making in traffic. Watson was repeatedly forcing the ball into situations where a veteran quarterback with his experience simply should not be going. These are not the kinds of tendencies you want to see from a starting quarterback heading into a new season, especially from a player who has only appeared in 19 games over the last 4 years. Watson has dealt with injuries. He has dealt with legal troubles. He has had almost no continuity on the field. Yet somehow, the Browns appear to be more committed to figuring out Watson than they are to building around the young quarterback who has been the most consistent presence in this competition. Chad Johnson, the former NFL wide receiver, gave Watson a 6-week window to prove himself. That is not a ringing endorsement. That is a probationary timeline. And Watson himself has responded by saying he is committed to putting the best possible product on the field. But saying the right things in the offseason is very different from actually delivering when the games begin. Now here is where things get interesting from a historical standpoint. Last season, head coach Kevin Stefanski made the call to start Dillon Gabriel over Sanders. That decision raised eyebrows at the time. Sanders had been the one generating buzz, building momentum, and showing flashes of what a franchise-level quarterback could look like. But Stefanski went with Gabriel. And then when Gabriel went down with a concussion, Sanders stepped in and showed exactly why people had been talking about him. He kept the team afloat. He competed. He gave the Browns something to feel good about in an otherwise difficult season. New head coach Todd Monken is now walking into this situation with a completely different set of challenges. If Sanders is traded, Monken does not have that safety net anymore. He would be left with Watson and Gabriel, 2 quarterbacks who have not generated significant confidence coming out of the spring work. Watson's ceiling in this system remains a huge question mark, and Gabriel, as the third-string option, is not someone you can reasonably rely on to carry an NFL offense if things fall apart. Yet the trade calls continue, and some analysts are already mapping out where Sanders could land and what kind of opportunity he would walk into. The Arizona Cardinals have been flagged as a realistic destination. Their quarterback room is thin. If Sanders arrives there, he would likely be given a legitimate shot at starting. Carson Beck would serve as the immediate backup behind him. That is a situation where Sanders would have something the Browns have never fully given him, a clear path to being the guy from day one. The New York Jets are also being discussed as a potential landing spot. Their starting quarterback, Geno Smith, does not have a reliable backup behind him on the current roster. Sanders would bring youth, arm talent, and competitive energy to a Jets organization that is still searching for its identity at the position. It is not a perfect situation, but it is one where Sanders would have real value and real opportunity. Meanwhile, back in Berea, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler noted that Sanders has genuinely closed the gap on Watson during the spring. If Watson struggles out of the gate in the first few weeks of the regular season, the expectation is that Sanders would be elevated to the starting role. That suggests the Browns have not completely given up on him as a possibility, but it also suggests they are not fully committed to him either. And that kind of organizational ambiguity is exactly the environment that breeds the trade rumors we are seeing right now. There is one criticism of Sanders that keeps resurfacing in these conversations. Former NFL scout Daniel Kelly, who had Sanders on his pre-draft radar, recently said that Sanders has a hesitation built into his game that concerns him. He described it as something ingrained, something deep in how Sanders processes the field. And he suggested that the NFL game might simply be moving too fast for Sanders to overcome that tendency. Kelly had flagged this in his pre-draft scouting report, and he is standing by that evaluation now. That is a fair critique, and it is worth examining honestly. But it is also worth noting that most young quarterbacks enter the league dealing with some version of this problem. The NFL is faster than college. Processing windows are smaller. The question is whether a player can learn to adapt and adjust. Sanders has not had the consistent representatives, the defined role, or the organizational commitment needed to fully answer that question yet. The Browns are in a position that is entirely of their own making. They have a young quarterback who outperformed expectations during the spring, a veteran starter whose reliability is genuinely in question, and a backup who has not done enough to inspire confidence. And instead of using that clarity to make a decisive move and build toward the future, the organization is reportedly entertaining trade conversations that could strip them of their most promising option. Training camp is less than a month away. Something has to give. The Browns cannot keep running this same off-season script and expect a different result when the season begins. Whether Shedeur Sanders is still in Berea on July 28th or wearing a different jersey somewhere else, this quarterback situation is heading toward a moment of reckoning. And Cleveland fans have been waiting a very long time for someone to finally make the right call.